Hey guys, so just wanted to address something that I did a poor job of explaining in my last video. When I was doing my position breakdowns, the point I was trying to make, although I will admit very poorly, is that on the defensive side, LSU has elite talent. But when we're talking about how they play on the field, Clemson's defense as a unit has clearly played better because they also have great talent, but also, and I believe more importantly, they are clearly the better coached group. And Clemson proved in the Ohio State game that they can stop one of the best offenses in college football. Although I will say again, LSU's offense is better than Ohio State's. And people would have had to have watched my Oklahoma LSU breakdown to know that I'm not very confident in Dave Aranda, LSU's defensive coordinator. And I've been familiar with him since his days in Wisconsin. And I think he's a good but not great coordinator because his defenses have a tendency of giving up huge chunk plays. And with that, LSU's defense has not lived up to their talent throughout most of the year, although they have played better as of late in their last few games, especially the Oklahoma one. But on that same note, Oklahoma's offense is nowhere near what Clemson's is. And as much as Jalen Hurts is a great athlete, Trevor Lawrence just might be a better one. And there's no comparison with them when it comes to throwing the ball. To me, if you saw what Alabama's offense did with Tua against LSU, I would say Clemson's offense is much closer to Alabama. But the bigger point is the fact that Clemson lost so much talent last year, and it's obvious people point to the defensive linemen that they lost, but it's more than that. I want to show you something. This is Clemson's recruiting class from 2019. They brought in 29 freshmen, and it's because they had a lot of roles to fill. That's why when Dabo Swinney keeps saying he's played more freshmen than any other school, it's because he had to, because there was so much attrition that he had to get those young guys up to speed. And more than that, to bring in 29 players and still only have the 10th rated recruiting class is not great, but it's fine for Clemson for two reasons. One, they, like most of the best schools, are great at identifying talent. And two, Clemson has great continuity in their coaching staff, which leads to them being able to find guys who fit their program and them being able to develop talent at a better rate than most schools. But just to show you how Clemson compares to other schools, I'll use the teams who were and will be Clemson's biggest games. So this is Clemson's recruiting ranking the past 5 years, compared to Ohio State and Alabama, their two most recent big games, and LSU, who they'll be playing in a national title game this year. Clemson up until 2019 had not recruited as well as these schools. And for people who think that recruiting rankings don't matter, let me just say this. That's in part true because coaches do develop players. But there's a reason why Dabo is recruiting the way that he is now. There's a reason why Nick Saban's success is tied to the recruiting classes that he had. And you're much more likely to hit if you get the guy that everybody wants, like a Trevor Lawrence, as opposed to a two-star that you see at a track meet in Kansas in Isaiah Simmons. And when we talk about player development, now LSU has the opposite problem of Clemson because they brought in the guys for the most part, but they're just now getting the structure in place in their coaching staff for their talent to develop at the rate that they should have been all along. And I'm sure LSU fans can appreciate me saying this. For the talent that their school has been and continues to bring in, they should have been competing for national titles all along. But with that, I'll show you this, and feel free to check my work. Clemson, with their victories over Ohio State and Alabama, have never had more talented rosters, and it didn't matter. This is each of those teams' draft picks and first round picks since 2015. Alabama and Ohio State have consistently put out more NFL caliber players than Clemson, and LSU is very close numbers wise, but far behind in first round picks, because I believe they were underdeveloped. And the reason why for both LSU and Clemson is I believe that they are both still programs on the rise. For LSU, it starts with Coach O, who has just now started to develop a winning culture in Louisiana. He's brought a special vibe to that city, and although I will maintain that defensively, they are still not living up to their full potential as a unit because LSU should at least be a top 10 defense. They are, as of late, getting closer to that potential. And for Clemson, when Dabo keeps saying the best is yet to come, I believe him because they're just now starting to recruit at the level of the LSU's, Ohio State's, and Alabama's. I've already gone through their 2020 recruiting class, but I'll show it again because it's unbelievable. And as I said before, it's borderline unfair. They have two of the best players regardless of position, the best pro-style quarterback, one of the top 3 running backs, and the list goes on and on. It's unbelievable what they did in recruiting, but what's even more unbelievable is that they've been so dominant without recruiting at an Alabama level. And if Clemson wins this game, and if Dabo's able to keep that staff together, it's more likely than not that they'll be more dominant than Alabama was at its peak, because Clemson's recent success has made an impression on new recruits coming up, and the continuity in their staff is something that recruits value, because when players commit to a school, oftentimes along with other factors, it's because of their position coach and coordinators, because that's the person that they'll be spending the most time with, as opposed to the head coach. And that's why I'll say it again, Nick Saban and Urban Meyer have always talked about the effects that assistant coaches have when they leave a program, because they find the best coaches, and once they leave, they have to try and find someone else. That's what makes Clemson so special, and the fact that if someone leaves, they just hire the next man up. That continuity is crucial to their program, and it's in part why I believe that Oklahoma is struggling to keep commits right now with the rumors around Lincoln Riley. It's why Ohio State may have lost some commits with their defensive coordinator and quarterback coach leaving, and it will really have a negative effect on LSU's program if Joe Brady were to up and leave after only 1 year. And with the rumors already around him, young recruits notice that stuff. Now, the other thing I want to address is draft projections, and this goes back to Clemson having to bring in 29 freshmen, and Dabo repeatedly saying Clemson's played more freshmen this season than anyone. I'll show you the draft sites that I used as my source. You can see on every expert draft board, LSU is projected to have more players drafted than Clemson this year. Here you've got 4 potential first rounders as opposed to 2. Then look at this next draft board. These are the experts. You have 9 potential players drafted as opposed to 6. Then at these final boards, just based on conference, you've got a potential 17 players drafted as opposed to 13. And that's why I've repeatedly said this was supposed to be a down year for Clemson. It's because they've had so much attrition on their roster. It's because they've had to play so many freshmen and sophomores. And I believe that with a year of experience, Clemson will be even better next year, along with that ridiculous 2020 class they have coming in. Clemson's defensive line, for instance, I believe they have a group of future first rounders, but they're all true freshmen and sophomores. Maybe it's just the standard that I've seen at Clemson and it clouds my judgment, but I want to give them a little more time before I give them full credit. But just to give a little more love to LSU before I close this, I really do hope that Joe Brady stays for at least a few more seasons, because you guys have the talent, but you need the coaching, and Coach O is building something special in Louisiana, and I'd hate to see the rug get pulled from under it too soon. So in closing, when I look at this game, and this is my honest assessment, to me, it's the best defense in the nation after the Ohio State game. Who can argue, led by the best defensive coordinator Brett Venables and best linebacker Isaiah Simmons, versus the best offense in the nation after their season. Who can argue, led by coordinator of the year Joe Brady and record-setting Heisman Trophy winner Joe Burrow. Then on the other end we have one of the most talented defenses in the country, who is capable of playing elite defense in LSU against quite possibly the best college football player of all time, especially if he wins another national title this year, in Trevor Lawrence and the Clemson offense. So hopefully this clears things up. For people who want to learn more about this matchup and Clemson's roster construction, I'll link to a couple articles that I found after editing the video down below. If this clip sounds different, this is a post edition, by the way. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Go Death Valley Tigers, and I'll check you out later on You Must Be Out Your Mind. Peace out.